The wedding at Cana is pretty much a gospel story that absolutely everyone understands and has heard of. And if you come to church with some frequency, you have surely learned a thing or two about Jesus' first miracle, turning water into wine. Now, I've never been much of a fan of repeating myself with respect to giving the same homily multiple times, and I certainly think you deserve more than those sorts of reruns. So I'm not feeling a great need to talk about the miracle itself, the abundance of God, the obedience of Jesus to Mary, or the obedience of Mary to Jesus. You've heard all those things before. Instead, I just want to use one detail of the story as a jumping off point. And that detail is the anonymousness of Jesus' miracle. So to briefly recap, the wedding at Cana runs out of wine. They complain to Mary, who reports to Jesus, who somehow brings about more wine. And although the servers knew where this new wine came from, the head waiter did not. And it is reasonable for us to assume that this wedding party continued, after the story ended, with the head waiter and the wedding guests remaining unaware of where this new wine ultimately came from. Now, I don't know that for a fact. I could be wrong. But considering Jesus' urging of secrecy in other gospel stories, it seems likely that the truth was known to Mary, the disciples, and the servers. And this is the jumping off point, because that kind of secrecy goes hand in hand with true service. Okay? Jesus did not want to be the center of attention. Okay? That would have been unfair to the bride and the groom. I can kind of relate to that in my own way, because every so often I'll go to a wedding reception and I'll feel just a little guilty when I'm clearly a better dancer than the entire wedding party. Just a little guilty. Certainly not guilty enough to stop. Anyway, but in all seriousness, Jesus did not want his miracle to be the big thing of the moment. It was more like his wedding gift. And he went about it with any need for thanks or recognition. And it's because true service, Christ-like service, happens behind the scenes. True charity is done anonymously. Okay? You can read about this idea in the Talmud, actually. The Talmud is basically the Jewish collection of texts of secondary importance after the Torah itself. According to the Talmud, the greatest kind of charity is when you give without knowing who will, receive, and when the receiver doesn't know who the giver is. So it's like giving up a kidney and just giving it away to someone who needs it without even knowing who. You're like, I've got two, just give it to someone who needs it. That is the best kind of charity. It's perfect two-way anonymousness. And as a matter of fact, there are some Jewish thinkers, don't know how many, but there are some Jewish thinkers that would actually go ahead and say that that is not even charity. They would say that charity is not a Jewish value. Instead, they say that giving something of your own to someone in need is better termed justice. And I love that. That is such a wise way to look at it. What did Jesus do at the wedding of Cana? It wasn't charity, it was justice. I could talk about that sort of thing all day long. But getting back to the wedding at Cana, the wedding guests continued their partying, seemingly unaware of this momentous, miraculous action that happened right in their very midst. And that got me thinking. It got me thinking about life, modern life. It got me thinking about something as specific as St. Francis Borgia, Catholic Church, and all the people that make up this congregation. And it occurred to me that this parish is pretty similar to the wedding at Cana with respect to the fact that there is so much going on behind the scenes. There is so much good that is happening here, with many of us totally unaware of it going on. And likewise, there's a fair amount of badness that's lurking right underneath the surface. An interesting notion to ponder on. And part of the reason that I wanted to go this direction for today was I wanted to actually apologize about last weekend. Because for both of my masses, 4:30 and 7:30, I was actually very much aware that I was grumpy and grouchy. As a matter of fact, I was angry. I was angry about things that were happening underneath the surface, and also things that were happening plainly for everyone to see. Most of those things being my own fault anyway. And I knew then that I should have been more Jesus-like than that. Because in the wedding at Cana, Jesus didn't need to bother the wedding guests when something went a little wrong. And when noon on Sunday rolled around, when my responsibilities were over, I knew that I should probably confess that to a priest. I'll get around to that point soon. But I also wanted to apologize now and confess now because you all are important. You are important to me, and I do value and appreciate all that you do for one another and for the parish. And that's true, even if I don't understand the details of exactly what it is you do. And I don't want you to doubt that because of a lousy morning. So what do you say we leave it here for today and just think a little bit more, reflect a little bit more about the lives of one another, knowing that a lot is happening behind the scenes in each one of our personal, individual lives. And let's remain confident that even though we don't know how or why, sometimes something miraculous happens and water can turn into wine before our very eyes.